Hi everybody, welcome back to Minecraft Gadgets, and on today's episode I'm showing you a pop-up flying cage trap where you're surrounded by blocks after you step on a pressure plate, and the flying reset timer makes it hard to break any of the blocks. And as you can see, we're being pushed up into the sky here in the flying cage, and by the time someone is able to find a way to break out, in all likelihood they'll be so high up that they'll die of fall damage before they are able to destroy the trap. Oof. And here's another angle. When the cage is triggered, pushes up, and then it starts to fly up in the air, and that's what it looks like from the outside. So let's take a look at how it works. Let's look at what's happening under the ground in this trap. You can see here that we have these 5 blocks with the pressure plate in the middle, and these are the blocks that we basically are attaching to the flying machine and sending up in the air, these 5 columns. Now the first thing that happens is when someone steps on the pressure plate, it triggers this trapdoor here. And when this trapdoor flips to the side, it becomes a full block, and this wall connects to it, which updates this observer. And that's how we're able to send a signal out through the cage that we're about to push up, while it still actually looks like a cage, and we don't have to have like redstone wires running around that get destroyed. And it's just a neat little trick that I found to make this machine work. So there's 2 parts to this, and as you might have seen in that clip of me getting caught in it, first the walls shoot up by 3 blocks really quickly, and then after a few seconds it starts flying upwards. So the first part of this is this circuit that I've isolated here, which is these triple piston extenders that push upwards and push these slime blocks up, taking the red blocks with them. As you can see, the slime blocks are attached to those 2 red blocks, which then push up both columns of blocks. So we have 2 slime block extenders, which push up all 4 columns. And I'll show you how to wire these in the tutorial section. It's pretty simple, but basically when anything steps on this pressure plate, the triple pistons fire. They don't retract, they don't reset, it's a one-time trap, but they push the slime block up by 3, and now we have a cage here. Now, this is the other half of the circuit. It's literally just these 2 parts, which is this flying machine. So this here is a slime block with these pistons attached to it, and as you can see there's a piston in each column of the trap, and so each time we push that slime block upwards, the observer facing into it fires, all 5 pistons fire, and it pushes up all 5 columns of blocks by 1. Now when the initial observer triggers, we run a pulse down here, we have 1 repeater, and we push this redstone into our actual flying machine, which then pushes the thing I just showed you upwards, which is the sort of piston extension to the flying machine. Now the flying machine itself is a design I got from someone else. I'll link their channel in the video. It's super cool. It doesn't use any slime blocks at all, which allows it to fit through this odd shaped gap that we have up here, which we push out from the ground. If we had a 2 slime block wide flying machine like most vertical designs are, then we would have to somehow move these surface blocks out of the way, but instead we can just push up this single column of blocks, and it pushes us our sort of trap up to the sky. And all it takes to trigger that is to push a redstone block over, and then this flying machine just shoots upward. So all we have right here is a slime block extension that pushes the whole trap up, and this redstone block that gets pushed over when we throw a block on the pressure plate. When the pressure plate gets triggered, redstone block pushes over, flying machine shoots up, and we're off to the races. So let's jump to the tutorial section. The first step is finding where you want to put the trap. I'd recommend somewhere that has open sky above it, since we're obviously going to fly upwards. It's okay if there's leaf blocks on either side of the pressure plate, but if there's leaf blocks right above the pressure plate, you're going to push the player down into the flying machine and they're going to glitch out. So you see the first thing you do here is dig your 5 blocks to mark where you're going to put the pressure plate, and these are the materials you're going to need. Now, we're going to dig straight down 7 blocks in this plus shape. Make sure that all 5 of these blocks are dug down by 7. Now that we have this done, we're going to dig down until the middle block is 18 blocks down. And I recommend you dig down a 2x1 space here so you can pillar back up. And this space at the bottom is where we're going to start to build our flying machine. So let's get out our pistons, observers, and trapdoor. We don't need any slime blocks for the flying machine, but we do need our pistons. Okay. And now we're going to build this flying machine as we pillar back up. So we're going to need a sticky piston facing down 2 blocks from the bottom of our 18 deep column. We got to dig down 1 to place that. So we're going to have a sticky piston facing down, an air block, and then a regular piston facing up. Then, going to go up 2, And we're going to have a observer facing down into this sticky piston here underneath a trap door. And then we're going to have another observer facing into that trap door that we just placed. But when I placed that observer, I accidentally updated a piston at the bottom, so I have to dig down and fix that now after I place this block here. So yeah, now we need a piston facing up on top of that observer, and that caused all the observers to update. So let's dig down and fix this piston at the bottom, come back up. And now we need an observer facing down into this regular piston with a block of air between them. And that is the flying machine. Just like I showed before, that flying machine is going to take off when you put a redstone block above that observer. Now we need another observer facing upwards with an air block between the two of them. And this is going to be the bottom of our slime extension that pushes up all 5 blocks. So now we need our first slime block here. Okay. And then we're going to put 5 pistons on this slime block, 1 on each exposed side, like this. And you can see we're fitting into that plus shape that we dug down before. So now that we have the 5 pistons placed, we need to dig out a little area around this so that we have space to put all the redstone and put in the triple piston extenders that we need. So I'm just going to dig out the dirt here. I'm going out about 1 block on all sides of the plus shape. And now we're going to place our stone walls so you can see where the cage is actually going to go. It's going above those outer pistons in the middle there. Now, we're going to place our triple piston extenders. So we're going to dig these blocks down on the outside. We're going to put 3 pistons up in those outside corners there. It doesn't matter which 2 corners you do, but you want them to be opposite corners. So we're going to go piston, 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 and then put a slime block on top of each stack of 3 pistons. And these are going to push the cage wall blocks upwards in that initial extension that catches the player. Now we need a little more space here to put in all the redstone, so I'm going to dig that out real quick. I've sped that up so you don't have to watch that. And we're also digging down here to look for the air block between the 2 observers. You remember that air block we created before. Now we trigger the flying machine by pushing a redstone block into that gap. So we take our redstone block and we put it in front of a regular piston, and as soon as power goes into that piston, it's going to activate our flying machine. Now, I'm going to clear out a little space here to put in the redstone repeaters and the redstone dust. And while it might look a little complicated, the basic thing to remember is that we have 3 pistons in the piston stack. Oh yeah, and we also want to make sure that we have this trapdoor placed, because as I showed in the showcase, that trapdoor is what sends the observer signal through the wall of the trap, and then that triggers all the redstone lines. So I'm first going to put that trapdoor in, and whichever side the trapdoor connects to the wall is the side that the redstone needs to connect to. So we'll run our line along that side, you'll see in a second. Now, in wiring up the piston extender, all you have to do is make sure you have a straight redstone line running into the bottom piston, a repeater on 1 tick running in to the second piston, and a repeater on 3 ticks running into the top piston. Now, I'm placing these, each one goes every other block because we want to place them into where the pistons extend, not where the pistons are when they're not extended. So you can copy the pattern you see here, or you can just make sure you're wiring up to the spot where each piston will go when all the pistons are extended, which is every other block. Now we're going to dig across here. We're going to dig around on that side where we've placed our wall and our trapdoor. And that's where we're eventually going to place our observer. And we're going to run redstone along this wall here. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to mirror it on the other side with those pistons. So the top repeater's on 3 ticks. Then we're going to go down 2 blocks. And then we're going to place a repeater that's on 1 tick. And then we're going to go down 2 more blocks, and we're going to power that bottom piston with a redstone line here. And you'll see that the redstone line It runs by on the block. It doesn't point into the piston, but it's still powering it. Now we connect the line up top, just like that. And now down at the bottom of the machine, jump down here, we need to place a redstone repeater going out of the line next to the bottom piston on one tick. And then that line is just going to feed into that redstone block and regular piston. And that's all we need for the wiring. So the last step here, which you're going to see me do now, is we need to place 2 blocks on each of the outer pistons attached to that middle slime block that we can't see anymore. So where I place those 2 dirt blocks, we need to do that on every side. And we have to kill a wandering trader real quick. I love that those guys just spawn in no matter what. Okay, now that that's done, let's finish placing in our blocks in the middle. And I'm stuck. After a bit of redstone parkour, we can finally place those blocks in the middle. Now you want to place your wall blocks. And as people pointed out on Reddit when I posted a GIF of this, you can use any other block. I mentioned that before. You can use wool. You can use other blocks that let people see through, like fence gates. You can even use blocks like iron blocks that have like a high mining resistance. But I'm just going to use stone walls here because those look good. And you always do need a stone wall or any sort of like wall in front of the observer because connecting to that wall is what triggers it. But then all other blocks can be something else. And now we dig a way for ourselves to get out here. We place our dirt down, covering up the patch. And we're going to place that trap or that pressure plate really quickly so we remember where it is. And we place that final block in front of the observer so it's all connected. I only placed it at the end so it can't accidentally trigger. And now, after we make a quick backup, we'll test if our trap works, and it works perfectly. So if you just copy everything you see me did in the video, that'll work fine. And you see it pushes right up through those leaf blocks there without a problem. And that's about it, guys. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe if you liked it, and I'll see you in the next video.